Today we're going to talk about parenting. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Parenting.
I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
You
I didn't
know,
say that when I found out I was going to be a parent, though.
you didn't say, I did see because we had different movements, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had different
Let's talk about that.
journeys. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
let's
different
talk about it.
journeys in that. You want to talk about that now? The different journey? Yeah, I mean, your plan was, um, you,
I
you know,
didn't
you
have a plan.
okay. Oh, and let me just say I don't want to say you did it the right way, but you did it.
No, I got knocked up when I was 25.
You were married.
No, we got pregnant first.
Oh, you didn't
Yeah, so
tell me.
we lived
Oh,
together. Yeah, so we lived together. My then boyfriend was finishing his last year of college, and I had already graduated. And so we moved in together and we had this fabulous apartment. Oh, so I love this apartment to this day.
you're eclectic, so I know that it was in the
Yeah,
city.
it was so,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's very good with design. And let's talk about this. We were on your way. So my then boyfriend and I were on our way to go see your brother. Rob was having a party in Columbus, and
As
we
he
were
always
on.
did back then.
Yeah. And I think the day before, I was just like, I think we need to take a pregnancy test. And we took it and it was positive. And I was like, I gotta tell Rob because he's gonna wonder why I'm not drinking because I was 25, right?
Because what was the famous drink he made? Mojo. So you didn't
I
get to have the
but I
mojo.
knew I couldn't have it. And I was and Rob, and we didn't say anything at first. And I wonder if he remembers this. So he was like, oh, why aren't you drinking? And I was like, I'm pregnant. And he was like, yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
we had known each other, as you know, we had
yeah.
known each other since high school. We went to prom together. We didn't date that whole time, but we were really good friends. I went to college, he went to college, separate parts of the state. And then we got back together when I graduated from college. So we had known each other. We lived together. Our parents knew each other. Everything was fine. And so when we found out I was pregnant, it wasn't that big of a surprise. And actually,
Right.
we were both really happy. And I do have to say, my oldest son, he wasn't planned, and we were all so excited, so absolutely excited.
Oh.
So, and I was young. I was 25 and had him a month before my 26th birthday. And then we got married because your uncle, my dad, we came home to visit, and my dad, we were sitting on the couch. I'll never forget this. And he was like looking at my then boyfriend, my now ex-husband. He was like, so when are you gonna make my daughter an honest woman? And we
What?
looked at it like so antiquated, but so funny. And we were like,
Right.
well, we could probably put a wedding together in 3 months, and 3 months we did. So
It
my
was
oldest
beautiful.
Ivy was at the wedding. He was 6. I don't know how old
He
he was.
can
He was
say,
little, and
I
he had
was
on a
at
little
my
tux.
parents' wedding.
Yeah, he was at his parents' wedding. So that was my journey to parenthood. To me, 25 seems like a really good age, but to me, that's so young. That's
Well, yeah,
so
mom
young.
had me when she was 27. So that
Okay.
means she had Rob when she was 24.
Okay.
So I always thought that was like the norm, actually, because that's what we
It
often do
is.
in parenting. And we go back and reflect it.
Yeah. It is
Oh,
the
what
norm.
our parents did was norm. Were you scared?
No, not at all.
You were a new parent, Kim.
Mm-mm, not at
Why,
all.
why wouldn't you be scared? You are responsible for a whole human being.
I think
You just not know what
now,
that meant.
yeah, I wasn't looking at it like that at all. For me, it was like, oh, this is another milestone in my life, right? Graduate high
Okay, okay.
school, graduate college, get a good job, find a partner. We moved in together, which sometimes is opposite. Now it's kind of the norm. And then have a
Yeah.
baby. I was like, this is how it's supposed to be. And when I had the baby, when I had this little human, I was in love. I was in love with both of my boys. Absolutely in love. Like I adored, I would wake up in the morning excited to be a mother. Thank God, because that's not how it always is.
Yeah,
That
true.
that is
That's true.
not how it always is.
Yeah,
So
true.
that to me, that was a huge blessing that I enjoyed motherhood so much. And I'm going to tell anyone out there thinking about being a parent, I probably enjoyed it so much because I was clueless. I wasn't thinking,
Yeah,
like you said, about the
because
bigger
should you,
ramifications of bringing a soul into this world, protecting them.
right?
I had
Should it,
Black boys,
do you
money,
think,
college,
well, did you think
financial
you should be
stability.
afraid? Do you think you should have been afraid? Like, you were like, no, I wasn't, but do you think, dog, I should have been afraid?
I
When
think
you
I
really
should
think of
have
the
been afraid.
ramifications of
Yeah,
the role that we
it's
play,
huge.
should, I mean, we're afraid to go on a job interview. We're afraid to get on a roller coaster because it's gonna, go up and down the
Some
hill.
people,
So many things that we're afraid of, but the most important role, the most important task that we have ourselves in place with, the most important asset, because I believe that our children are our assets, right?
mm,
We're not afraid. That's a kind of weird.
I I think that's me. I think a lot of people are afraid to be parents. A lot of people are parents that are afraid. I think me, for one, I was clueless,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know anything about being a parent except for what I've seen around
Let's
me.
just
And
do it. Yeah.
yeah, let's just do it. And I think we are less afraid with things that we're excited about,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if someone gave me a trip to Paris for free, I'm not going to be afraid to go. I'm going to be like, let's do this. But that's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's me. I wouldn't say people should be afraid. I think people should be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
I think people should think critically before they have kids. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people have kids just to be an accessory to their life, not realizing this is a complete independent human being that's going to eventually have thoughts and values that might be very different from your own. The
Well,
kids are not a toy or a mini you to make your life better or more enjoyable. Like they are their own people.
well, that's why I'm saying, where should we be afraid? I mean, let's just break it down that, parenting is the process of raising, nurturing, and guiding a child, right? And all that encompasses the physical, right? The physical, the social, and also the cognitive development. So when you really want to break this down just in plain terms, we are the chefs, right? We got to make sure that we're providing nutritional meals, right? We are the stylists. We've got to make sure that they're dressing appropriate, and we're educating them on how to present themselves, from a wardrobe standpoint, because you don't want your young ladies with the high shirts going to school. There's just certain parameters that we're trying to teach them with the dressing. We're the doctors, knowing what kind of medication, like what are your symptoms, what's going on, what type of medication to give, and not to give too much medication. We are the police officers, we are the lawyers, right? We are. Look, I want you to listen to all the roles that we operate in as parents, right? We are, the educators, right? So not only we send them to school to get educated, we still got to expound on that at home because we're helping them do their homework. We want to teach them Black history if we're Black, because we know they're not getting it in the school system or any other things that we want our kids to learn in school. We have to do it at home. We are their financial advisor. We got to teach them the value of money. We got to teach them how to budget, because if we don't do that, they're going to spend our money rapidly. They're not going to understand the concept of money, right? So also, what are we? We are the drivers. We are the driver's ed, because we're like the first educators of teaching them how to drive, right? Are you exhausted yet? I mean, we're their coaches. We're their motivational, motivational speaker or guidance. We are their belief systems. We're teaching them through the religious you know, it depends on where you're going with the whole religious standpoint. Do you want to keep them within your value system, or do you want to allow them to explore on their own so they're free thinkers, right? We are their therapists. We've got to help them emotionally, socially deal with. I could go on, which is why we can probably do any job that's out there, because our job as a parent is all of these things. And these parents, including myself, I've been there, that are so hard on themselves. I don't think I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
I don't think they like me. I think I'm
I
gonna,
think
you know,
mothers
yeah.
especially have that.
Do you realize you are not just simply going to a job and your role is, if it's McDonald's, taking the order, cleaning up the tables, taking out the trash, the little small roles. Your job as a parent encompasses everything. And you better be good at it.
It's like you running the
Probably
entire
good at
McDonald's by yourself.
it.
You're the cashier, you're on the fries, you're doing the burgers, you're at the window, you're cleaning the bathrooms, you're taking out the trash, you're welcoming guests, you're doing the budget, you're ordering the buns. That's actually a good way to think about it. Yeah.
You realize
To keep that McDonald's up and alive and running,
right?
which is my whole thing as I think as parents, we just really, our main thing is to keep our children alive.
Right. And Kim, how hard is it? You having boys, I have a daughter. You did it twice. Interesting. I did it once. I knew better. No, I'm kidding. How hard is it when you build your child's self-esteem? You give them all those tools they need, and then they go out into the world as everyone attacks them, beats their self-esteem down. You're constantly working at your child to build them up, at your children to build them up, because the world is constantly bringing them down and attacking them. It's
totally.
I
saw this comment on a TikTok video the other day that said, the world is not your friend. I don't even know what the video was about, but that stuck in my head. And I was like, yeah. And I wish I could have taught my sons that at an early age, because I'm just now realizing the world is not your friend. And like you said, the world, once our kids leave our homes and our structure and our guidance, they need to know. So parents, if you're listening, please teach your kids that the world is not your friend. They have to be their own friend.
Absolutely. Because you see more kids now that's in therapy, a lot of kids, committing suicide, from the bullying, from all of the things, all the negative things that, they're faced with outside of your home, outside of our homes, right? And I feel like, and that's what I do with Nori, I make sure that, and it's funny because I did this ever since she was little. I'd had her stand in the mirror. The counter was probably not even, I had to like prop her up so she could actually see the mirror. That's how little she was. And this was before she went to kindergarten, because I felt it was so imperative for her to do this every day. She'd be in the mirror and I have her, I am beautiful, I am smart. And I have this video of her doing this every day. I love myself. This whole song that I created was just a whole positive affirmation. And I wanted her to say it every day. I need you to build yourself up. I want you to know who you are. And no matter what is said to you, what is done to you, because it could be our teachers, it could be adults that's beating our.
It's definitely teachers and adults.
Yeah. I don't care what it is. I want you to know who you are. Know who you are.
Yeah.
It's so important. And we'll go back, like we were talking about earlier, our journeys being different. One thing I always know, again, everyone knows that if you've seen previous shows, that I grew up in a domestic violence home, right? So I always knew at that point, from what I saw, that I didn't want to be married. So I had the opposite, journey from you. I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. Did I date?
Let me say this. I never yearned for marriage. I never dreamed about marriage. Literally, my dad telling me and my then partner, when are you going to make my daughter an honest woman? That was society telling me that I had to get married. Because when we found out we were pregnant, we didn't talk about marriage. I wasn't like, okay, I'm pregnant now. You have to marry me. And I
Oh,
do have to say, I am a very free spirit, but being married, having a man was not something that I, was like, oh, I have to do this. This is my life's mission, is to have a husband and be married. No, I
do
was
you feel
excited. I
like
was
that's
excited
why
to
it
be
was a
pregnant.
season? Do you feel like
What'd you
that's why
say?
it was a season because of the how it began?
Well, no, it was a season because he cheated on me.
Okay, that's another show.
Right?
Okay.
I would have had no problem staying married forever. Once again, because
Oh.
and I do have to say, I think me being married, especially as a Black woman, benefited my sons, right?
Mhm.
There's a very harsh
Hmm.
stereotype about like single mothers, especially
Yes.
Black single mothers. So it was a benefit for my boys to be, for me and their dad to be married. But you know, I would have still been married today.
Oh,
And
wow.
I've gone through such a process. Like me and my ex-husband are, we're friends right now. We weren't
Mm.
friends for a decade, right? But at this point in my life, I can't carry around any burdens about what has happened in my relationships, right?
Yeah.
And I'm telling
Yeah.
this to anyone that's divorced or has been hurt or betrayed. It's a process. It wasn't like, my marriage crumbled and then the next day I'm like, oh, we can all be friends. But my ex-husband and his wife and their kids, they come over for Thanksgiving. We call them for birthdays. Like, they are part of our family. And I've heard people say, well, why is that? And I'm like, especially my ex-husband has two sons by the woman that he was involved with when I was married. We'll say that.
Mhm.
And when I tell you, I
You don't want
love
to say
those.
cheating. You don't want to be
No,
trans.
it was cheating. It
Okay.
was cheating. But the sons that they have together, I love those.
I
I
love
was telling
that.
my dad yesterday, I love those boys like they're my own.
I
And I
love
even
that.
told my sons, I said, these are your brothers. They're half brothers. These are your brothers, right? They are going to be a part of your life for the rest of your life. There is no need for me to carry around any anger or
Oh,
malice
that's
towards these
huge.
babies. They didn't have anything to do with me, their dad, or their mom. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And they are very special, wonderful souls
Well,
that
now, do you figure
and
that you
sometimes I think that's why our relationship was for a season. So we could have our boys and they could have their boys. If me and my ex would have stayed married for 50 years or until we died, these two little people, they're, I think, 8 and 6 now, they
mm.
wouldn't have been born.
Well, do
Or
you
maybe
think
they would have
that
been born, but it would have been a different scenario.
well, do you think the reason that you made sure or you tried or attempted to have a great relationship with your ex-husband because you knew that it was important in the role of parenting?
I knew it was important in the role of parenting. Me, as my sons needing to see their parents not be, I think the word is like acrimonious, because my ex-husband and I for a long time hated each other, absolutely hated each other. And I saw the strong impact it had on my boys. And I said, this is awful. This is
I
awful. Something's got to change. And they say you can't change other people, you can only change yourself. So I had to look at
You were
myself
able
and
to
be
come out of
like,
yourself, yeah, but that's
it
really
took a long
important.
time. This
Yeah.
wasn't, I'm
Yeah,
not a
you
saint.
yeah,
I
I
am not a
love it.
saint.
You were able to come out of yourself because sometimes people don't do that. They stand in their
Yeah.
own way,
And it
come
was
out of
for my
yourself and look at your
boys.
sons and go, "Oh my gosh." this is not good for my
Right.
boys. I have, we've got to fix this as parents.
Right. And I can honestly say that if it wasn't for my boys, I would not have the relationship that I have with my ex-husband and his wife and his kids. Like if we never had kids, there'd be no need for me to repair this relationship. But because of my sons and his sons, we share kids. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, this isn't good. This isn't good for them at all, or me, or him, or his wife, or their kids.
I hope listeners are here, our listeners out there are really hearing what this really means. Like really picking up on the impact of what you not just did, but what you did along that time and how it changed the trajectory of your relationship all the way around with your ex-husband, his now family, and
Yeah,
your sons, and how they're able to move through society now and be amazing men, right?
they are
All
amazing,
with the
man.
choice that you made to say, me and this ex-husband of mine have got to get it together for the sake of our children. And
Not
his
even me and this ex-husband of mine, me. Because we didn't sit down and have a conversation like, okay, let's try to get along. I just started showing up with love instead of with hate. And it was hard. It was hard. Sometimes I still get in my feelings because my dad is very
love
close with
that.
my ex-husband. Um Sometimes it's hard. And I also have to say, I was telling someone the other day the pain that my boys went through during our divorce and after. To me, that is my biggest regret of parenting, that my kids had to experience so much pain and trauma from the adults in their life, their
And
mom
yeah,
or dad.
all the
I mean,
infighting,
that's a
not getting along,
huge,
and
yeah, huge.
yeah, all the
I mean,
hate.
I'm not just fighting, I'm talking about custody battles,
Yeah.
police, court cases.
Mm.
It was bad. It was bad. And I regret every bit of it. And it has made me who I am today. But unfortunately, my sons had to go through so much pain. So much pain.
See, that's what I would love for parents. I mean, I don't. It doesn't matter if you're married, non-married. If you become parents together, make it more important in all your decisions based on the children.
Right.
See your children. That's what the biggest thing. See your children. Because I
And
feel
try to
like,
get along with
yeah,
the
if you
other
see
parent.
your children, right? Observe, look at your children. You will see the pain that they are going through because of all of the infighting, right? You can see it, you know. Stop for a minute, right? Even in the midst of the argument, stop for a minute and look at your child.
Well, I'm going to
And you may not
interrupt.
be around your child, right, when it's happening, but also know that the effects, right, of the arguments and all the infighting, and there's also relationships where, like, because I don't, we're not married, right? You say if two couples aren't married, okay, well, if I hate you at this point, you're not going to see your kids. Or if I still want you, you don't want me. Until that changes, you can't see your kids, right? You have a lot of adults in therapy now just from that very experience living like that as a child with parents moving in that way.
Well, let me interject and say, because you said, notice the pain that your kids are going through or in the midst of a fight. I'm gonna say most people are not mature enough to do that. And I say that from experience. I mentioned that I got pregnant and had my first son, almost at 25. I was going to be 26 the next month. At 26, I don't think I was mature enough to parent correctly, which is why all the pain and suffering with my kids, because I didn't have the maturity to be able to regulate my own emotions. I didn't know who I was. And so I think, and that's not just me being young. but that's
Speak to
even
them.
people in their 40s aren't
Okay.
mature enough to be parents.
Speak to that demographic, Kim. Then what would you, how would you, I don't want to say encourage them because I never like to tell people what to do, right? But what would your advice be? You know, how can you
If
help?
you're not
You know,
mature,
yeah, how can you help someone that you felt like, hey, I wasn't, you know, I was young, I wasn't mature enough. Okay, we have people out there like that now. What would your
yeah.
advice be? Like, how can you?
If you're a parent, yeah. And this isn't just for young parents, this is any parent, because
Yeah, I
I know
agree.
people in their 30s,
Oh,
40s,
absolutely,
even
absolutely.
50s and 60s that are not mature people. And if you're not a mature person, it's a little more difficult to be a good parent. Not impossible, because I think I was a very good parent, but I had a lot of gaps in the parenting because of my immaturity. And I think the best thing is therapy, like know thyself.
Hmm.
Because if you know yourself, then you're able to, I think, parent more effectively. And then I think the
Mm,
second thing is, especially for women, for mothers, is to pour into yourself. Like our society says, women as mothers should give everything to everybody. And so a lot of times mothers are burnt out because they're
yeah.
doing all the jobs that you mentioned in the beginning. You're a chef, you're a driver, you're a therapist, you're a house cleaner, you're an educator, and then at the end of the
Wait,
day you
Kim.
have nothing left for yourself,
Wait, no,
and
wait,
then you take
Kim.
it out on your kids.
Wait, Kim. You just listed what I said that you are for your children. Let's not forget what you are at the job, the actual job that you hold to take care of the children. So
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So that this is what I'm saying, like I said, especially to mothers, because I'm a mother and I can only speak to motherhood, but I look at so many mothers that allow the do not give themselves grace to rest, to nurture themselves, to self-care, to love themselves, to be their authentic self. So if you're none of that for yourself, it's really hard to pass that down on to your kids.
Oh, absolutely. And see, you said you can only speak to the mothers. Um, I can speak to the mothers and the fathers because I tell Nori I'm both. Because see, she just has me.
And
So
some
when
others
she
are,
wants
yeah.
to speak to her mom, I say, "Yes, sweetie. So this is what we'll do." And then she was like, "Well, what about my dad?" And I'm like, "I've told you before. We're not going to do it right now." You know. So I get the dad,
Yeah.
and she goes, "You're crazy, right?"
Well, that I feel like I've talked so much about my journey to parenthood. And right now I have two sons in their 20s
You
that
did
are
it
doing
again.
amazing.
They are amazing. I love
I just wanted to wrap it
and
up.
they're so smart. They're so
They're very smart,
and they're
very
like you. They
creative,
think
very
outside the box. They
ambitious.
don't go with the norms of society. They're actually free thinkers. Yeah, right.
I passed something good down.
You pass
Like they
everything good down,
they
baby.
are, when we talk about we want our children to stand on our shoulders, I want them to be better than me. A lot of parents don't want their
That's
kids to
what.
be better than them.
How could
I
you not?
want and my kids are already better than me. And I'm like, keep going.
Yes,
So I
yes,
say all that because we heard about my journey, which was more traditional, right?
yes, yes.
I had the husband, I had the two kids, we had the Volvo, very stereotypical nuclear family. Now let's hear your story, your journey to parenthood.
So my journey to parenthood, um, it was quite different. It was quite complicated and exciting. Um, I, coming from again, being molested at a young age, right? And also, and when I say young, four, and then also growing up in a domestic violent home, that shapes my thinking, right?
Yeah.
That shapes my social skills and feelings. So I always knew I am not going to get married because this is what marriage is, right? I'm going to be a single, parent. I also was, because being molested, I had And I don't know, it could be born, who knows, but a conflict with myself and who I am, who I am in romantic relationships, you know, am I homosexual? Am I heterosexual? Am I, fluid, right? All that fight, in me. So out of all of those things, right? And then you move through the world and they tell you you need to be married, and you date, guys, you're like, okay, so I keep hearing that this is what I need to do, be married. So you push those relationships, right? You push yourself and making that dream come true because it's the societal norm, but yet you still have the fight in you. So then you eventually just throw the towel out and say, you know what? I should be a nun. Okay. Couldn't be a nun, but should be. And then you just say, you know what? Forget it, because I'm like my cousin Kim, a free thinker. I may be a little bit more creative in that free thinking because I do things really crazy and off the edge. You kind of do too, but so I said, I want to be a mother. And no matter how many um, men or women that were against the fact that I want to be a single parent. And they would say all the time, that's not a good idea. You shouldn't be, you know, initiating a single parenthood. You shouldn't do that. It's not good for the child. And I would always push back and say, but my mom was a single parent and she was amazing at it. Like, I
Mm.
can do it. I watched what she did and it seemed easy, right? That's what I said
She
before.
made it seem
Yeah,
easier.
it seemed easy, so why not? Like, I don't need help, right? Um, so then when I got on that premise of saying I'm gonna do it, I don't need a man. You probably like this. I don't need a man to have a child. Oh, that makes you feel warm and fuzzy, doesn't it, Kim? Because you were like, women should be able to just. We got to think about women. It's
No,
all about the
I mean,
woman.
as much of a feminist as I am, I totally see the benefit of having, a man and a woman and two parents. I have no qualms with that.
Yeah, I said I'm gonna do it, and I said this is gonna be great. I'm gonna do it was a journey. I did interuterine insemination. I think first I did insemination, which is a different process. That could be another show. And none of that worked. And then I did intrauterine insemination and then in vitro. So I went through all these processes because
Can
obviously I
I
wasn't.
can I ask really quickly I know we'll probably do
No,
another
no,
show, but what's the
yeah.
difference between the three?
Um,
Insemination,
insemination is
intrauterine
yeah,
insemination, and in vitro.
yeah. You don't yeah you might I want to be careful of being so transparent.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay.
you know what I mean? Like, because
Well, what
insemination,
are the technical medical things? Like, what's the difference?
well, so we know that insemination is you're simply, right, because, I'm real. So I will be giving you the whole thing, which is probably rated R. But okay, you just pretty much,
Just the
you have a,
sperm being inseminated into
well, yeah, you
the
have a spectrum and you just shoot it in, okay?
yeah.
The sperm inside to get to the egg, right? And so the chances are really hard. Unless you do
Hmm.
Clomid, and which I did do Clomid, and that is giving you more eggs and making the eggs bigger, right? Um, and then interuterine is actually when you're taking a tube, right? And you're getting a little bit closer, you string the tube up and you're getting closer,
Oh wow.
to it goes through your cervix and you get closer to meeting that point to get to the egg. So it's closer.
Is that
And then
painful? Is that
is it
painful?
no, no.
Because you're getting
I mean, it's a
closer.
tube. I mean,
Yeah,
I,
but
I
I'm
don't want to be.
imagining the tube.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
painful
I'm
piercing the
transfer. You know how we
uterus.
sit on the couch. I would say something else, right? But I am being so nice to the listeners out there. But it's a
Oh,
tube.
okay.
Yeah, I want you to just kind of take what I'm saying. It's
So
a
good. It's not
skinny
pain. It's not
tube. When
painful.
you are so used to more than just a skinny tube, don't play.
Okay.
Don't play.
Okay.
Right?
But it's not piercing the uterus though, or
No,
is
no, no, no. It's a tube that you're just stringing down, tube feeding down
interesting.
through.
Okay.
Yeah, you barely really feel that. And
Okay.
then in vitro, it's pretty much when you take well, it depends on how you're going to um, fertilize the egg and the sperm outside.
Okay.
in a tray outside the body. And
Okay.
then once it sits in it, could get to blasphemy or whatever, it gets to a certain point, they feed it back in through, a tube. They'll feed it back into you. There's so
Okay.
many things that happen to me, but we're not even going to go through that. It was a journey. And I started at 30, and I did not have Nori. Like nothing was successful until I was 44.
Oh,
Look at that
wow.
time span,
So
right?
14 years
Yeah, yeah, and it was just
to
a lot
become
of
a parent.
crying. Yeah, a lot of crying, and I'm not even. I'm transparent and I'm real talk. Yes, listeners, I did try the whole friendship. Let's get a turkey baster and let's get a
I'm sure
friend
it's
and let's
less expensive too, right?
yeah, yep. That's why we did it. That's why we did it. It did not work. And just think of the dangers. We did get them tested, but so um, I'm telling you, when I got to 44 and the doctor said I was pregnant with Nori, actually the call was, "You are pregnant with twins, right?" Yeah, I had twins. And I was like, and I got a chance to see in the ultrasound the little two 20s right in there. But then I ended up losing Nori's twin early on.
Oh,
And because of the way that I lost Nori's twin, it became like a big hemorrhage, the twin, and it was overtaking Nori. So they said, "I'm sorry, but Nori's not going." Well, they didn't know her name at the time, but your other baby is not going to make it as well. We'll just wait until the time comes and the
oh
it
boy.
will further leave my body.
Yeah.
Well, everybody knew how much I wanted to be a mom. So people on my job prayed, family prayed. My job even said, "You go home and be on bed rest. You can work from home." There's so many things, and every time I would go back, they would say it shrunk down. I don't know what's going on. The hemorrhage
Hmm.
is shrinking, and I was like, "God, I
Prayer
don't." Yeah,
works.
I was like, "I
Prayer
know." And
works.
then they would keep on. And then as soon as I go, they were like, "It's gone. You just have a
Wow.
chance here, right?" And yeah, so I just ended up, I had like some other complications along the way, but and again, bed rest, and I had the best job ever. And the great people at my job that were a great support. And I believe to this day, that is why let me just stop and say there is a young lady on my job, Melissa, who I feel like I always contribute the Nori's existence, because she came along a time when I was just like, she actually was pregnant, and I was so excited for her, and she had a miscarriage. And so I told her my story, because remember, I started at 30, and I was like, you're gonna have this baby. Try again. Try again. Do not get stuck, and fear and disappointment. Throw in the towel, because you're meant to be a mother and it's gonna happen. I need you and your
Mm.
husband to try again. And she did come back to me and say, "I don't want anyone to know, but I'm pregnant again." And she said, "You need to try again. You need to be a mom." I said, "Honey, I'm old." Because yes, it was 43. We had that conversation. Yes, I thought I was old. Now I think no, I'm kidding. But yes, I thought it was. So I said, "No, no, no, no." And she guided me through the whole process with my nose. "I'm going to check our insurance." She comes back, "Our insurance covers it." I don't care. Because, I've paid before. I don't care. Not doing it. No. And then she was like, "Just go get checked out. I'm going to find where you can go do in vitro." And I'm like, "I don't care what you do. I'm not doing it." And then she said, "Here's where you can go." And I was like, "So what? I don't care." She was like, "Do it for me. You don't even have to do the process, but just go check and make sure you're healthy." And so I was like, "So you will leave me alone? I'll do that." She was so good. Right. And so
Mm.
I went to get checked. They were like, "Yeah, we got him in here." I said, "I'm old." They were like, "No, you're not. We got him in here coming in at 52, 60, still able to have children and having children." I said, "Not me. You will."
Wow.
Right. So I did it. I said, "Okay." She sounds healthy. She said, "Just do one for me. It's paid by the company." Right. And I said, "I don't want to cry. I don't want to go through this anymore. I don't want to do the disappointment." She taught me through that whole process that I ended up doing it for her. And when that doctor called, I ended up finding out at the job. And at the job, we had an open atmosphere. So we all see each other. And when the doctor called, I was just like, "Yeah, okay." I already know. I'm talking over the doctor. I already know what you're gonna say. And Melissa's standing beside me just like this, and I'm like, I don't know why you're so excited. I'm gonna tell you what's been happening since I was 30. It didn't work,
Mhm.
right? And so she was like, well, Gilead, this is the Dr. Gilead. And I was like, yeah, that's okay. I understand it's never worked before. She was like, well, Gilead. I said, no, no, you don't have to tell me. Like, she could not. Finally, she said, you're pregnant, right? And I said, I'm did. And I realized I said it in front of everybody on the floor, and everybody just started clapping. The whole everybody, men and women, and crying. There were
That's
tears.
sweet. That's
Yeah,
sweet.
because they knew how much I wanted to be a mother. And I I had this little bundle of joy in my system and or in my body, and I already knew all of the things I wanted to do. Right. Um, I felt like because I had my mom here, I was going to be just the most amazing parent. Right. Um, I did fear. When I said fear, because I didn't know. Hello, I'm 44. Um, I didn't know what it means to be like all that comes with being a parent. This is a human being that I'm responsible for. This is a person that I have to nurture, guide, protect, educate, and then send out into the world, which will be a
Mhm.
reflection on me. Right. So I was afraid of all of those things. And but I wanted her more than anything in the world. And so I have her. And guess what? I have postpartum.
Mhm.
So with postpartum, mine was I don't want her.
Mhm.
I would go ahead and let's give her on up because I don't want. I was trying to give her to her godmom. I didn't want to do it, and they wanted to put me on medicine. And I was just like, no, no, I don't, I wasn't good at doing medicine. It's making me all like warm and fuzzy here. Um, so I just had to get through the motions. And it was the hardest thing for my friend here in Atlanta, who was like my best friend here, to go through, and my mom to go through. It was, they can only tell you about what they went through. And I did not understand it because that's all I wanted to do is be a mother. I wanted Nori more than anything in this world. Why am I going through this? And they were like, well, age is a factor, your hormones is a factor. She was just breaking down all of the things, right? And sometimes your want is a factor, wanting it so bad,
Mhm.
right? So I managed to get myself through it, but then I also felt like I missed a lot. So this is what I'm saying, don't beat yourself up, parents. But I did beat myself up because I missed a lot of the critical, because my mom was caring a lot for Nori at the beginning, because of what I was going through. And I don't get that time back. So I often felt like, God, I'm horrible. I'm horrible. How could you not be the mother that you have planned to be? Like, how could you not? Which obviously, you have to understand, listeners, sometimes it's just not, you can't control that. Our hormones are beast. Our hormones does things to our systems and make
Right.
us move and drive in ways that we just don't understand. And it
I think you're bringing up a good point is sometimes parenting isn't what you expect.
correct, correct. And you would never know it. You would never know I traveled that journey with Nori if you see us to this day, you know, because she's like everything to me. Like, right, we are like the love fest. Like we drive people crazy. She's saying, "I love your mommy every day. I love you too," but we are so close.
Well, there's
And
different stages of parenting as well.
yes, and even though, let me tell you, listeners, even though Nori and I are so close, and she's everything to me, I still have times where I call my brother crying, saying, "I don't feel like I'm enough. I am not a good mother. I am so hard on myself," as I know you all are as well, because we want to be perfect, and yet we're also still scared in this role, and we want to make sure we're doing all the right things. But we are, because all we need to do is give them the love and guidance. Really, that's what they want, is
And
love.
time and energy.
Food for
I mean,
Nori. Give her food.
well, because there are, and we see it, we see the manifestation. There are some parents that don't want to do the best, that don't care, that
Yeah.
don't
There's the other
want,
side.
don't have the love to give.
Yeah.
And I think that form of parenting, like whether it be neglect or deep criticism, we end up seeing those people out in the world. And
Yeah.
we're like, what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
And I think it is such a heavy burden, I think, to be a parent,
It is.
because you are having an impact on another human that could result in where their life leads to.
What I just, yep, remember what I just mentioned, that the fear of all the things.
Am
Exactly.
I going to mess up?
And
Because there's no, I mean, now I guess there's parenting books, but really there's no instructions on how to be a good parent. Yes, now we
you
have the
are, I
the
thought I left mine at the
internet.
hospital.
Right?
I thought I did.
We have the
I was going
internet
to
now
call
and
the
social
other day.
media, but
Okay, I was going to call the other day and say, should I mean, where's my book? Because I
right?
never got it. My daughter's 11 now, and I didn't get my book. Is there
You
not
know,
a
when
book?
you
There's
buy
no
a new
instruction guide?
car or a new appliance, let's say a juicer, or then you get the manual that tells you the batteries and what, how to clean it and what to do if it malfunctions and a number to call. We as parents, we don't get an individual booklet about our individual children. Like we can go on social media and say my kid is doing this or I'm doing this, but it's not exactly tuned to us. And so we're kind of winging it.
Isn't that crazy? And we're responsible for a whole human being that goes out into society, interacts with other people, gets jobs, have children of their own. The list goes on. What? What?
Even dealing with their, you're talking about the external things. I think deeply about the intrinsic, the internal things. Like, is my child going to be a kind person? Is my child going to have the morals to not hurt others? Is my child going to be spiritually connected to a higher power? And if
Mm-hmm.
they're not, what does that mean? Is my child going to be safe as they roam this earth? I mean, goodness gracious, it's a lot.
Yeah, there's
And
a lot.
let me say, as a parent of two children over the age of 18, it never ends. It
It
never
doesn't. No,
ends.
it's
I think
lifetime.
as long as you are alive, you will, and have kids, you will always be parenting.
Hello, my mom passed away when I was 52 and she was still parenting me.
Yes, of
So it doesn't.
course. Of course.
My dad just passed away this past November, and I'm still going to him saying, well, I need your advice. I don't need, or he
Because
was
you're
saying, are you doing this? Still talking to me like I'm the little child. Why would you
right.
do that? Are you doing, what I mean? You're still
And let
parenting.
me say, not even when you're alive, because even me myself, my mom has transitioned from this earth 10 years ago, and I still talk to her, asking for advice. So maybe we will literally always be parents, period. Not
Yeah.
just when we're alive, but just period. Maybe we'll always be parents.
And one of the important factors of being a parent, right, is I always say, remember, I come from the background of being a therapist, right? And one of the things, and I was a therapist to families, I would always say, you are a mirror. Keep in mind, you are a mirror to your children. You are a
Wow.
mirror. They are watching every single thing that you're doing. And what's interesting is when you have your children reflecting back the tools that you're teaching them and you don't know. When I have Nori saying, Mom, did you take her vitamins today? Because you make sure she takes her vitamins. Mom,
Mm.
did you, I don't know that you should eat that because I think that's going to be too much salt for you. Because you're always saying,
Did you
oh,
do that?
Nori, yes, yes. Mom, why are you just reading half your book? I see your marker in half your book. Are you going to finish reading that? You're always big about me making sure I finish reading my books, right? Just all the things.
And
Mom,
let me
did you? I mean,
interject.
let me
Not
just.
only
I
the
do brush my teeth every day, but because she has the tools, she'll say, "Mom, you brush your teeth today? You know I brush my teeth today. Did you brush your teeth today?" So it's just all the tools,
Right,
right?
and not only for the caring part, I was, watching a video on social media, and it was this man at a grocery store, and he was Latino,
Mhm,
and he had a very heavy Spanish accent,
mhm,
and he was actually degrading the man in the line behind him who was a Black Haitian immigrant, and he was saying, "Go back to your own country. We don't want you here." Now this is a Latino immigrant
mhm.
yelling at a Black Haitian immigrant, and the Haitian guy was like, "I'm just trying to buy my food." I tell this story because this Latino immigrant who is a parent, he was drunk,
Mm.
like he was being videotaped. He was drunk yelling at someone else to go back to his country. His child, his son that was with him in the video, he maybe looks about 8 or 9, was also yelling at the person, telling him to
See?
go back to his country. I hate you. We don't want you here. So that really goes to show what you say about parents being a mirror, not only the good things like Nori telling you, you know, did you brush your teeth? Did you read the book? But also the opposite side of the hatred that is also that when we parent, parenting isn't always good. Like we
Right.
can parent just like this man and teach our kids about the hatred we have to others because kids are so
And
impressionable.
that kid goes out into the world and interacts with yours that you've taught different values. It irritates me like no tomorrow. I know that it happens, but and I see that that's why some, when I go to the beach, because Nori is a beach bum, she loves the beach. So when I go and I meet other parents and I end up meeting parents who are homeschooling their kids, that is kind of some of the things that you hear. Not only they're not fond of the curriculum at the schools, but
Mhm.
it's
I
I
agree.
just don't want my child interacting with, I want them to have better social skills, right?
Yeah.
And you think, well, if you're homeschooling, they're not really going to get social skills, but they're doing what they need to do from a social realm, right? What they do is like people, right? They have their kids, by, group meetings
They
and
have
play
activities and
dates with like
clubs.
kids, right?
I say
But they're
every
trying to
homeschool
avoid.
kid I've ever met, and I mean, granted, I haven't met a lot, has had excellent social skills, actually better
Oh,
social skills than most kids that are in public. Because think public school doesn't teach kids social skills. You're just
exactly.
in the same building. Kids have to interact. We don't have a class on friendship. We don't have classes on communication. So when people are like, "Oh, you're homeschooling your kid," they're not going to have any social skills. Our schools are being shot up by kids with
See,
guns.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
not good
Yeah,
social
yeah,
skills.
exactly.
Once again, what is going on? I'm not blaming the parents,
Right.
but I think parenting definitely has an impact on the violence that children perpetrate against others.
Well, what I want to I say with for Nori, as much as I might cry to my brother saying, the school tells me different. Every school she's been in, and just a few weeks ago, a teacher, you're in a carpool line, so you got to move these cars, and this teacher was running to my car, and so automatically I'm like, oh geez, what's happened? What is she gonna tell me? And she said, "You're Nori's mom, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I just wanted to say you have the most remarkable daughter. She is so mannerable. She is so kind. She is always helping the other kids. She is helping us teachers. We love her so much, right?"
That's
And so
beautiful.
when I get that, I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" And when I say mirror, um, she watches how I'll go out of my way. I could be in the grocery store and someone will drop something. I pick it up. Or somebody's having trouble getting through the door. You will be surprised how many people walk by someone that needs help. I sit and watch it. And I'm just like, why won't they stop? And I'm like, oh my God. But how I help people in the stores, how I talk to people. Just yesterday, we were at Walmart, whatever. Like we were at Walmart and I couldn't find. She has a fish, another fish, and I couldn't find the salt for the fish because the fish she says has some type of disease. Nori researched and
Oh,
said the fin is black on the back and it has this, so we need sea salt. She says, so again, she's already being a healer, right? Now down
Mm.
the list. So I said, okay, let's find out. So we go up to, I was calling the lady in the aisle. She's a white lady associate in the aisle, an older woman. And I'm like, hey, excuse me, ma'am. And so I was like, I can't believe I can't find this. And she's not looking at me. And Nori's like, she's not. And I was like, ma'am, excuse me. And still nothing. So finally I get closer and I'm like, excuse me, ma'am, I am just having a time finding the salt for the fish for the aquarium tank. They usually have it over there. And, she was like, looking at, like so agitated. And I said, it is so funny. I was like, 'cause she's trying to save the fish. I'm trying to help my daughter save the fish, right? And I said, so if she said, well, it is down here. We moved it. Da, da, da. I said, oh my God, I knew it. I said, you are amazing. I said, thank you so much. I was like, you just don't realize what you've done for my daughter because we got to have the sea salt. And then she was like, you're welcome. Yeah. So where we have it, yeah, they moved it. Da, 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 right. We walk away and Nori's like, she was like rude when we walked out. Mommy, you see how she looked at you? And I said, Nori, she could have had a bad day. She could have her own reasons why maybe someone like me approached her and had an interview. You don't know what she went through. And I said, but did you see that how I changed the game? Did you see how she went from, I'm really not feeling you. What do you want? The look to, I hope you stay longer. You are such a nice person. I want to help you longer. So, she started saying why they moved it, where, and just smiling. And I said, a lot of times is how we interact with people, understanding that something might have happened. So that's why I teach Nori. When teachers respond to her in a different manner at school or kids, something could be going on at home. They could have experienced something else. Let's try to understand where they are, right? Let's not always assume, So that's just kind of how I teach Nori.
Yeah,
Because
we all have different ways of parenting, and it shows in our children. I
yes,
think it
yes,
shows
yes,
very clearly. I mean, because you can most likely talk to a child and know like where their confidence level is at,
yes,
whether they're people pleasers, whether they are open to others that aren't like them, fairly quickly make, how do I put this, make informed conclusions about why some children and some adults are the way that they are because of how
exactly.
they were parented.
Exactly. And I want to also say, because we're talking about schools and teachers and kids, and the treatment and the social realm, that as parents, we really have to be advocate for our kids in schools. We can't just assume they're getting what they need, right?
Yeah,
We
please don't
can't just
assume that.
assume that a grade that they come home with, be it good or, be bad. I would say good or bad, whatever, that you don't have to advocate and see what's really happening. What kind of communication is happening between the student, your child, and the teacher. What are they teaching? What is the premise? How long are they, able to learn it? What's their atmosphere like? What timing are they giving? What is the teacher projecting on that child? Why they may feel anxious about taking a test or anxious about things. We have to advocate for our kids in the schools. Don't give it all to the school and the teachers.
Oh my God. Let me say this as, and I love that we're having this conversation because we are dealing with different perspectives, right?
Yes.
I'm a parent that has two kids in their 20s, right? You still have a child that's in school. If I knew like what you're telling us right now, if I knew this then when my kids were in school, like I advocated for them, but
Right.
not as much as I would now because no one really told me. Remember earlier, I don't know if it was this episode or the pre-show that we just did when I said the world is not your friend, that I'm just now learning that. The
Yeah.
school, the education system
No.
is not no one's friend, not just Black
No.
children,
Yeah.
especially not Black children, but this education system is not your friend.
No.
And I say that because you as a parent, you're able to teach other parents now. Advocate for your child. I didn't get that when I was old, when my kids were younger, because it was assumed that the education and school system wanted the best for your kids. Now
Exactly.
with
Yes.
this administration, and now with the school shootings, and now with all the tests that they're doing, school is not your kid's friend. And if you don't advocate for them, no one else will.
No, because they got all these testings now. Like, you know, your child could make straight A's, but if they take a iReady, a Star, or a Georgia Milestone, and I'm speaking my area, obviously, they could be
The
put in a
standardized testing.
special class. Right.
Yeah.
They could be put in a special class. And as a parent, you're like, what are you?
Parents, we are telling you,
Straight A's? You're saying special?
schools are not your child's friend. You
No.
need to educate them yourselves. You need to advocate for them. If they don't want to take a test, don't have them take the test. If there's a teacher that is bullying them, because yes, teachers bully. I still vividly remember the teachers that bullied me for being Black. I am not, and you and I talked about this, I am not a psychologist today because of teachers that bullied me in the 3rd grade. You know who you are, you know? And I at that time, I didn't go to my parents and say, hey, this is what's going on. But I can tell you the times that I did tell my parents what happened, and they advocated for me. And that is what I call good parenting, when you stand up for your kids when they have been wronged,
Oh,
which is what you
absolutely.
do
Oh,
now.
absolutely. Oh, they know.
Parents, stand up for your
Yeah,
kids, because
they
nobody
know I'm
else,
gonna call. Like, I'm
nobody
like,
else is going to
why is
care
it?
about them like you.
Well, yeah, you're right. Like when you and pay attention to your children too. Don't like assume. Like I pay attention to everything Nori does. Like
Yeah.
when Nori's writing something, I'm like, why don't you know how to spell that word? And she was like, well, I just need help on, And I was like, but you guys have spelling tests. She's like, no, we don't. I was like, what do you mean you don't have spelling tests? I mean, so you are expected to write paragraphs and papers, but
Not know
you
how to
can't spell.
spell.
So I called the school and I talked to the teacher and I said, my understanding that you guys aren't giving spelling tests. Well, yeah, in this county, we don't give spelling tests. I said, so you're going to have a bunch of adults walking around not
We
knowing how
do,
to
and that's
spell?
what we have now.
Like,
You know,
how do you know how reading is writing? You got to know how to spell.
let's do an entire show about the American education system, which is
Oh,
not number 1 in the world. I think we're like in the 40s, like 43rd or something. Let's talk, because they're getting rid of the Department of Education.
uh,
This is why I say parents advocate for your kids, because school is not their friend. I don't know the exact year, but John D. Rockefeller, this is why the United States public education system exists, because an oligarch, John D. Rockefeller, needed people trained to be able to work in his factories. That's why school is the hours that it is. That's why if you look at school, it very closely resembles prison. That's like the
Nori calls it a
lining up,
prison.
the bells, the
Yes,
lunch trays,
yes,
like the
yes.
prison food. Come on, people. If you are a parent, just like Gilia is saying, watch out for your kids, because unless you are going to a private school that costs you 40 grand a year, which most of us aren't.
Right.
And I can
Yes.
say that because my kids did go to a private school that cost 40 grand a year for a couple of years, and we were not paying the 40 grand. a complete stark difference from public school. And the parents advocated for rich parents parent their children very differently, very, very differently. And it is a sense, I will say it's a sense of entitlement. That's not a bad thing. And there have been studies on it. If you're in a certain class, if you have a certain amount of money, you teach your kids that what they want matters. And there is
Yes.
nothing wrong with that. When they go to the doctor talks to the child, the parent is there, but the the parent make sure that the child is able to communicate his or her issues or problems to the doctor. The school system listens to the children and lets them think critically and communicate
Yes.
with authority
Yes.
figures, that we, as like the commoners, the peasants of the 99%, we unfortunately often parent our children in the way that we were parented, as far as kind of being subservient. Well, you're the police officer, you're the principal, you're the doctor, you're the teacher, you're this person in authority. So I have to bow down and think that you are all knowing and great. Rich people don't do that. This is why you have
Yeah.
rich kids getting traffic tickets, and they know. They're like, why, officer, why was I pulled over? Can I see the speeding gun? They have lawyer, they
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Whereas, and I say that we as parents only know what we know. I can't parent my children to be multi-billionaire future oligarchs and dictators, because I'm not one. But I can tell them what I've learned, because I still parent, because
Okay.
I am consistently learning. And so what I'm learning, and then I tell my sons who are adults, I'll say, I'm telling you this not because I think I know more, but because I've been through more, and I don't
Yeah,
want
you
you to
liked
go
it.
through
Yeah.
this. So let
Exactly.
me tell you what I did, or what I learned, or what I know, so you can avoid that pain, or
Yeah, I
you
do
can do
that.
better than I did.
I do that. And before I say I do that in a different way, um, I want to also say that, before we move from that, pay attention to your child. Like if you're, when your child comes home from school, if you're picking your child up, pay attention to the expressions, pay attention to the tears, pay attention to the depression look, and ask questions. There's
Yeah,
been many a
ask
times, Nori,
questions.
will get in my car and you just want to assume that they're just tired because they had a long day. Don't assume. Hey,
Right.
so what's with the sad face? Oh,
Yeah.
nothing. Don't go with that. Oh, nothing. Oh, no, nothing. So how was your day? What happened? You're not normally this sad. Are you tired? No. Well, this teacher, I tried my best, and we'll start crying, and this happened, and you can start troubleshooting and walking
Great
them through.
advice.
And I usually either say, Nori, here's the best way to handle it. This is what you need to do tomorrow. And you're always going to be respectful when you are challenging your teacher. You can challenge in a very respectful manner.
There you go.
If it doesn't move in the way that it should, then that's when you'll come and let me know. And then I place the phone call. So that's how we troubleshoot. Now, back to what you were just saying in terms of advising them moving through life, because you're not the millionaire oligarch that you say.
Not yet.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say yes you are, yes you are.
I'll be a kind oligarch though.
Yeah, you are who
I
you
will love the
be.
people.
Yeah. Well, in a different manner to that, I also say that what I realized, that everything that I was taught, let me start out by saying I believe I had the best mother ever, right? But everything that I was taught, I don't necessarily feel that I need to teach Tenori
Yeah.
or use today,
Yeah.
you know?
Times
Um,
change.
yeah, so I have to tell Nori that, because you often interact with family members that are from back in the day, because our aunts and our grandparents, some are still
We're older.
alive, and they're moving in the way that they always know, right?
Right.
Of their generation.
Well,
So I
let's
have to
say that they
explain it.
were moving in a way that was safe for
Yeah,
them
yeah.
to move.
Oh,
Because let's say you have an auntie that's 80 years old.
uh-huh.
She would not have been able, when she was young, as a black woman in the South, have been able to challenge her teachers about her grade.
You're right. You're right. Different time. Different time.
But it's I'm right, but I'm backing up what you said. You're right. That
Yeah,
you don't necessarily think that the things that how you were parented and how you were taught are going to translate to how you parent your child.
exactly. So that's what I'm kind of like. I take, I don't take everything that was taught to me, right? I take what I need, based on where we are today
Totally.
because
Wait, what's the
times change.
saying? Um, eat eat the meat, throw away the bones. Have you heard that saying? That's what
Yes, yes.
you've gotten this
Yeah,
great parenting. You've eaten the meat and you throw away the bones that no longer would serve you or Nori.
exactly. Like I'm gonna go with something small. You know, oh, step on a crack, you break your mother's back. Don't go around that pole. The things that you grew up with, and you're just like, why am I do? Why?
Right. The
Why is this?
superstitions,
Yeah.
the
So why am I gonna do that with Nori? Because I don't even know why. Right? There's plenty
yeah,
of things that we are doing and we're carrying on from our parents that we really don't know why.
without critical thinking.
Right?
I mean, I will I'm glad you said that because I still have the superstition. This wasn't taught to me by my parents though. So I guess it's mute. But I don't let people split the pole.
Okay.
Like we actually when we were together and we had dinner a few months ago, I was like, no, you gotta go around
Yeah.
the pole. And I've taught my sons that. Will they teach their kids at that? And will I feel some type of way if they don't know? Because it's a superstition that I don't even know why I
Yes.
do. And that's
Yes.
okay if
So
they
what I
don't
do
teach their
now
kids.
I
Yeah.
do now is it's so funny, you guys don't laugh, listener. Do not laugh. But what I do now is say, Nori, no, 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 don't split the pole. Go back around. And when it happens, because this is how I was raised, and I was
Right.
like, I don't know why I'm doing this, Nori. It was your nana taught it to me. If you choose not to do it, if you're the one that ends this whole saga, I will be so happy because
It's
I don't
okay.
know why I'm doing it. And she
I
just
mean, it,
starts
it could be
laughing.
like a sense of unity because if you know you don't want something to come in between the family. I think that's part of the superstition, and that's why the old people were always like, stay together instead of
Yeah.
separate. But
And
yeah, if Nori
the
doesn't
pole.
teach
The
her
really is the
kids,
pole gonna do? Come
if
on.
my kids don't teach their kids, I'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Don't look in the mirror when you're cutting teeth. Don't let your baby look in the mirror when you're cutting teeth because it
I
makes them
never heard
cut
that.
teeth hard. Oh, my mom
Okay.
had a list of them. I would be
Yeah.
so afraid of everything. And
Yeah.
I like I said, and we could carry up. I'm telling you, this is one of our best shows, like because we could go on for days, but I need to make sure that we talk about a couple other things. And I want to make sure that we circle around and talk about discipline. But before that, we do that. I want to say that the other important thing, and raising children, is being able to, it doesn't, you're a parent, right? You're supposed to, you're the authority figure. Admit you're wrong when you're wrong.
Yeah. That's a
It's
good one.
okay. Admit you're wrong. So when I lost my mom, I went down a spiral rabbit hole of poor decisions, things that I would never have had Nori involved in, because
Too.
I was in so much pain. And when I healed and came out of the pain, I was able to look back, and because some of the some people were still kind of around, that I had to explain to the people, I would have never been in your life if my mom hadn't passed.
Mm.
I'm going to move on now because it's just not the atmosphere that's good for me or my daughter. I thank you for being around the time that I did need support, right? Um, I had to go to Nori and say, mommy made some really bad decisions when your Nana passed. And I know you saw them all. And I love you so much. And I am sorry. And I hope that you forgive me for those poor choices that I made and you had to witness. I never want to put you in harm's way. And she was like, yeah, mommy, she'll break it down, but we're not even going to break it down with you. Yeah, mommy, with you. And I'm like, yeah, okay, great, great. And she said, I know
Because
you love
moms are human and make
me. Yeah,
mistakes.
I know you love me and I love you, mom. And I forgive you, right? You have to have those conversations. I have that often. Um,
Awesome.
I could, yell at Nori about, I don't do it too often. She's such a delicate flower of something. It could be her room. I don't know. yell at her about something she's not doing. But I will circle back around and say, that might have been not the best way to handle the situation, Nori, but let me let you know why my temperature rose, and why I worry for you in the future, which it could be simple as, not paying attention when you walk out, in the street. And I get, so it's that protection thing you get, and you yell and you're just not really, because you're trying to,
Yeah.
but you say,
You
because this is
communicate with
what,
your daughter
yes, communication is so the
like she's a
key.
person.
Yes,
Have you
yes,
heard of this
yes,
term called gentle parenting?
yes. And
This
that's
is
where
what
when
it
I,
sounds like.
right.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to circle
We
around
didn't get
and
gentle parenting.
this is why I'm going to circle around and say, well, I got so much flack from even your dear cousin, my brother, lots of family member, and little Leo too, right? Our
Yeah.
cousin. I don't use, I grew up with mom and other family members disciplining us with a belt, right?
Physical
Or yeah, physical, yeah. It could be
discipline.
hand to whatever. I don't do physical discipline with Nori. And I always said to family members before I even thought about being a mother that I wasn't going to be that type of mother, right? And so they would ask me, they spare the rod, spoil the child. And I was like, but I want to know, where did we start? And you guys are going to attack me out here. Where did
I
we
can tell you.
start
You ready?
hitting on our children? I'm not saying beating, but physically disciplining our children. Is it
You want
rooted from what happened? Rooted from
I'm
what
ready to
happened
jump on
back in
this.
slavery, where you see our people get beat down with the whip, slung up to a tree, and that is the way that we got taught with discipline. That is my mindset of where I feel that was rooted from, and I chose that is not how I'm going to move with my child. You are like, I'm trying to get in.
Oh, actually, you've already said it. I agree. It's rooted in slavery,
Yeah,
and we've carried the discipline on.
I get
And
attacked.
once again, the spare the rod, spoil the child, I believe is in the Bible. And I always talk about how religion is used for control.
You did. Yes. Yes. You said that. I just get, we would have so many people um, having a problem with this right now because I have so many people challenging me with this every time I bring it up. And Nori is a great child, and
Yeah.
I have not, I don't know what my mother did when she was keeping her. Nori tried to say that she did physically spank her, and I was like, and she's not here for me to talk to her about it. I was like, she
Yeah.
never said she did that. We had an agreement, and see, that's the thing. You would never make advise your mother to that's another thing against our generation. You would not advise your mother how to parent your child. I did. I said, I'm letting you freely take care because you did a great job with me, mom, but I ask of you not to use physical discipline because that is not how I'm raising Nori.
Right. My question once again, because I've had so much time to think. Like my oldest will be 25 next month.
Mm-hmm.
And oh no, next week. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, he'll
oh, you're
be
gonna get in trouble.
actually in a few days. In a few days. And my
You're
youngest
maturing.
is 21, right? So yeah, I've really thought about this. That I agree with you. I don't think any parent should use physical discipline on their child because to me there's a very fine line between discipline and abuse. And if I'm not going to use physical discipline on another adult, why would I use it on my child who I love? Like there's a way to communicate and articulate, I think, without hitting, using a belt, using an extension cord, using a tree limb, throwing an object. Like, come on. Like, if we think about it, if it was just two people and not a parent and a child, you would go to prison. I mean, actually, you do go to prison now if you hit your kids. Because why are we doing that? Like, I don't hit my coworkers when
So
they don't
right.
listen to me.
Now, what would you say to the listeners out there saying, well, that's
Not
why we have
coworkers.
all of the crime with these children in gangs and, killing, robbing, and shooting because we've taken away the physical discipline?
Well, and I also have to say we may have taken away the physical discipline, but look at what our media shows you as far as violence on TV. You know, when my dad was growing up and your dad, they watch Gunsmoke, they watch westerns, which are very problematic. I'm not giving
Bonanza.
them a pass. Banana, I'm not giving them the pass because there was violence. There was violence against women. There was violence against the indigenous people, which were, you know, white people cosplaying indigenous people. I'm not saying that there was no violence, but the violence that they showed in the media and on the radio, because they didn't have TV for a long time, is very different than the violence we have now, where you, on a not even a daily basis, but a hourly, minute by minute base, if you go look at Netflix, if you go look at regular TV, you will see violence enacted every single minute. I used to love Law and Order SVU. And then I started wondering, why do I love this show that is having sexual violence against women and children?
Yeah.
I mean, people love Law and Order SVU.
You've got
Is
Sex and
SVU?
Murder. You got Forensic Files. You got the ID channel. I mean, shall I go? I mean,
Snap. I used to watch Snapped, which is
oh,
women that would kill their husbands. True crime podcasts are like the number one podcast for women. And psychologists say women love that because we're listening to it to find out how not to be the victim.
right. Do you
So,
think the school
so
shooting?
much violence.
Exactly. Do you think the school shootings wouldn't still be here today if it didn't start off with Columbine? If Columbine never happened, do you really think we would have school shootings? Because Columbine, it's a playoff of the next one and the next one,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
a copycat.
I mean, it starts somewhere, but there's, I mean, we could take it back. There's always been violence in schools, particularly against Black people. Like, think about Ruby Bridges integrating. Yeah, it wasn't AR-15s. I think that's what they're called, because they didn't have them anymore. But you had people spitting on her, calling her the N-word. There were bomb threats. There's always been violence, but it's escalated because our world moves so fast right now. Our technology has advanced so much, not only just in social media, but with guns.
Yeah.
Kim Hess, with no military training or gun safety training, can go buy an automatic weapon today.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's probably waiting periods, but I could buy one this week, this month. Like, we didn't
You
used
don't have
to
to
have
buy.
that.
You can inherit one.
I mean, the men in our family
I
have
inherited my
hundreds of
dad.
guns. Yeah. My father has dozens of guns.
Yeah. And I just walked
Dozens of
into a
guns.
gun range and said, I want training. Okay, come on.
Right.
Come on.
And to me, there's nothing wrong with someone owning a gun. I think particularly we as Black women probably should own guns, because this world is very unsafe for us. So if it's very unsafe for us, imagine how unsafe it is for our children, and trying to parent in a world where violence is the norm.
Yes, exactly.
You know, because, like, listeners, I live with my dad, and anytime he's watching a movie, I typically can't watch it with him, because he's a man. He likes action movies. He likes John Wick and The Equalizer and Clint Eastwood movies. People are dying in those movies. People are getting their heads shot off. We were watching Kill Bill the other day, and this woman, and Uma Thurman's character had a machete, and someone's eye came out. She got the person's eye, put it on the ground, and stepped on it in her bare feet. So people cannot tell me that the physical violence that we inflict upon our children is any better than the physical violence that they see every day. The video games, the police shootings,
that if we don't
police killing people,
discipline, yeah. Or the reason, your point, you're driving it, you ran over it, and you backed up over it, or the reason why, because we choose to remove physical discipline from our children, that they're not going to see violence other places and act on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or think it's cool.
Or think it's necessary, or think it's normal.
Exactly.
Or think it's normal. So you telling me you're just going to add to that by spanking your kid? Uh,
How do you do it in this way? I guess I often, because I love Nori so much. How do you do it and as you're doing it feel okay in your
yeah,
heart?
because there's anger, and that's another thing I think we as parents need to address our anger before parenting our children, whether verbally
I
or
love that.
physically,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because a lot of it is
Great
done,
point. Oh,
especially in the old days when you hear our parents or their parents talk about, yeah, so grandma or mom had me get a switch or told me to, or I got beat with the extension cord or the ironing cord. What?
yeah.
What? So you're telling me that the person that did that had meditated for 30 minutes before they made that decision, had maybe read their Bible or their Quran, maybe, drank a nice cup of hot tea before they
I
beat
beat
you?
the crap. And you often remember our time. Why do they have to have a conversation? Because you know that it's going to be a longer, with I told you not to go down that street. You're like, oh my God, if she does not get the
Anger.
conversation.
We need to examine our anger. To me, it's no different than domestic
Yeah.
violence between romantic partners. Someone's trying to discipline someone else.
Yes.
Someone is going to end up hurt
Facts.
mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually. I am not, I will never be an advocate of putting our hands on children. And I say this as someone who has in the past had, like when my boys were young, like spanking them on the butt or
Mm-hmm.
letting their father, spank them. When you see the pain on your child's face, to me, a person that's in touch with who they are and their humanity isn't going to do that again, because I don't ever want to inflict
Yeah,
physical pain on someone I love.
and it's the messages. You think about the messages in terms of one, you're doing the physical discipline, and then your child's screaming and crying, and then you say, "Shut up." And so it's like now you're not letting them express their emotions.
This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you.
Yes. It's so much wrong in that.
Imagine someone that you love in a romantic relationship, before they punch you in the eye, say, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. And then they punch you in the eye. And then you're supposed to keep loving them and respecting them and trusting them after that. I don't see the difference between that and parenting a child.
I agree. I agree. We go okay. We're beating this down like a horse. And
No pun intended. Or
right,
pun
yeah, right. I
intended.
know, right. And we could
And
cover
I just
so.
have to say, just parents, just love your child and do what's best for your child. And so think about, is physical abuse or yelling at your child out of anger, is that going to leave your child better or worse? Because I can tell you
Mm,
all the spankings that I got as a kid, and I had very few, but I still remember those, and I don't think it left me as a better person.
I got a lot, and I agree. I got
And
a
did
lot.
it leave you as a better person? It
It
just leaves
no,
hurt
no.
and trauma.
Look where it brought me. It brought me around to saying it's not a good it's not a good form of discipline, and that's how I discipline my child. Right?
Right.
That's where it brought me around.
And I also want to point out that our parents and any other parent that has done that probably were doing the best that they could at the time
Yeah.
because they didn't know any better.
Yes.
But if you're hearing us right now, you know better.
And when
And
you
it's
know better, you do better.
because some people are like, I got a bad kid and he or she don't listen to me. Well, figure it out. You take the iPad away, take their favorite food away, make them wash the
And
floor,
right,
anything except for beating
and
them.
why? Examine why don't they listen to you? Why do you think you have the bad kid? let's put the time in analyzing and
There you go.
communicating and finding out why that is.
Well said.
Yeah,
Why?
we,
Just
you
like
know,
you said, when you talk to Nori and she gets in the car and you're like, examine it deeper. Why? I love that. Great
am I
advice.
exhausted because I'm working and
You
I pick my
work,
daughter up, right?
you
And
got to
my
cook
mind is
dinner.
going at 100. No, when she gets in that car, everything that was going through my mind is now put on the side because my daughter has gotten in the car. Hey, oh, you're looking different. What's going on? How was your
Yeah.
day? Tell me about it. You know what I mean?
And I
So
understand a lot of parents don't have that bandwidth, which is why I say parents, we have to take care of ourselves.
yes,
So we
yes,
do have the bandwidth for when they get in the car and they look upset, or they whatever they did that you think warrants a spanking, like
yeah.
really taking some time out for you, taking care of yourself before you parent in a way that is going to leave a permanent mark, a permanent stain in
Impact
your
the rest of
relationship
their life.
for the rest, because
Absolutely.
they might be 50 one day talking about, yeah, remember when you beat my butt because I broke your favorite glass? And you'll be like, oh my God,
Right.
I
Exactly.
did?
What?
I'm sorry.
So yes, I love that. We are
Yeah.
going to leave it here. We have talked about a lot of dynamics in parenting, and I hope that we're helpful in how you all move in your parenting, how you advise others who are moving, be it a friend, associate, and their parenting. I just hope this is all helpful, and we are definitely welcoming any comments that you have. You know, you can let us know what you think about the physical discipline. We will welcome those comments, and we
Yeah.
may talk about them again based on what the comment is. We will do another show on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kim, I love how you say it. Where can I?
Like, comment, share. You can also email us at elevatingempowering@gmail.com. But I think, once again, to close, like, you and I, Gilia and me, we're here for you. Like, if something came up and it made you defensive, that's actually kind of good, because we want you to investigate why that made you defensive, right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
we are here to share from our own experience and our, just like I tell my kids, and our own mistakes, so that you can be better. So if we
We just
said
life in it,
something
baby.
that you're like, ugh, I don't like them, or I disagree, that's fine. But think about why.
Yeah, we're just life in it, baby.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're giving
we
you.
are just life in it.
Yeah, yeah, we're giving
Whew.
you. We have experienced. We're giving you some of our educational background, but also what we have experienced. So we're not going to
As
tell you anything that
parents,
we want to do. Yes,
we're
absolutely.
we're parents too. We are not perfect.
Yeah. Yes.
We're close. We're close,
Yeah.
but not perfect.
Close. They're like, really? All right, you guys, make it a great day. As we always say, we love you, and there's nothing you're going to do about it.